Primary education is typically the first stage of formal education, coming after preschool and before secondary school. Primary education takes place in primary school, the elementary school or first and middle school depending on the location. The International Standard Classification of Education considers primary education as a single phase where programs are typically designed to provide fundamental skills in reading, writing and mathematics and to establish a solid foundation for learning. This is ISCED Level 1, primary education or first stage of basic education. The ISCED definition in 1997 posited that primary education normally started between the ages of 5, 8, and was designed to give a sound basic education in reading, writing and mathematics along with an elementary understanding of other subjects. By 2011 the philosophy had changed. The elementary understanding of other subjects had been dropped in favor of to establish a solid foundation for learning. The United Nations Children's Fund believes that providing children with primary education has many positive effects. The ages cited cover a rapidly developing phase of child development. This is studied in the discipline of developmental psychology, which among other things attempts to describe how children learn. In Great Britain, reception, the first year of primary school, is part of the early year foundation stage. The philosophy of education, of teaching and learning, has, over the millennia, occupied many great minds. It attempts to say what children should be taught. In pre-agrarian cultures, children learned by following their instinct to play. There was no need for enforced education. In agrarian cultures, the skills of agriculture, husbandry, bartering, and building skills can be passed on from adults to children or master to apprentice. Societies agree on the need for their children to learn and absorb their cultural traditions and beliefs, and they attempt to do this informally in the family, or by gathering the children together and employing one adult to handle the task. A tutor. This worked well for the landowners, but the children of the landless would be employed from the age of 7 as servants. In one source from the turn of the 15th century, a French count advised that nobles' huntsmen should choose a boy servant as young as 7 or 8, and that this boy should be beaten until he has a proper dread of failing to carry out his master's orders. The document listed chores that the boy would perform daily, and that the boy would sleep in a loft above the kennels in order to attend to the hound's needs. Religious communities become providers of education and define the curriculum, learning to recite passages from their holy text as a priority. For their society to advance, the oral tradition must be superseded by written texts. Some students must go on and write down the passages. Monastery students needed to read out what is written in the religious language and not just the vernacular. This led to formal education in madrasas and schools. Martin Luther declared that salvation depends on each person's own reading of the scriptures. Trading and management create a demand for accountancy. Basic skills thus included literacy and numeracy. This was the core of elementary education. In mid-17th century America, Massachusetts became the first colony to mandate schooling for this purpose. Beginning in 1690, children there and adjacent colonies learned to read from the New England Primer, known colloquially as the Little Bible of New England, in England. 1870 was the beginning of compulsory state education. Elementary schools in England and Wales were publicly funded schools which provided a basic standard of education for children aged from 6 to 14 between 1870 and 1944. These were set up to enable children to receive manual training and elementary instruction and provided a restricted curriculum with the emphasis on reading, writing and arithmetic. The schools operated on a monitorial system, whereby one teacher supervised a large class with the assistance of a team of monitors, who were quite often older pupils. Elementary school teachers were paid by results. Their pupils were expected to achieve precise standards in reading, writing and arithmetic, such as reading a short paragraph in a newspaper, writing from dictation, and working out sums and fractions. To achieve this, a dual education system was initiated consisting of both voluntary denominational schools and non-denominational state schools to supplement rather than replace schools already run by the churches. guilds and private individuals or organizations. Before 1944, around 80% of the school population attended elementary schools through to the age of 14. The remainder transferred either to secondary school or junior technical school at age 11. The school system was changed with the introduction of the Education Act 1944. Education was Res.